Hi, everyone. I'm David Aragona, and this is the March 4th edition of Horses to Watch. On the show this week, we're going to take a look back at 3 replays from last weekend to analyze some horses that didn't have the best trips in their races. We'll talk about 2 races from Aqueduct, 1 from Gulfstream Park. All of these races are dirt sprints. We'll begin in New York and with Aqueduct's Saturday card. We're going to look at 2 races from that day of racing. Beginning with the second race, it was a claiming $35,000 event for horses that have not won 3 races lifetime. I want to focus on the number 3, Jerome Avenue. Let's break them from the gate. And you're going to check out Jerome Avenue, not getting away from the starting gate all that well. He actually stumbles forward, gets bumped by another horse, and ends up towards the back of the pack. Now, this is a horse that was coming out of route races, and this was his first time cutting back to a sprint in a while, and he's just not able to keep up with these horses early. After that poor start, his rider, Eric Consell, steers him to the outside portion of the track, and he's going to try to move up with this horse to get him into more of a position that he's accustomed to racing in. But to do so, he's going to have to go extremely wide around the far turn. Now, there is a point on the backstretch when he probably could have angled this horse over to the inside. For whatever reason, he elects not to do it, and he just sends this horse out into about the 6th path. If you watch the head-on of this race, it's actually a real rarity to see it in a 6-horse field on the turn of a race. 6 horses, each occupying their own path. This horse is legitimately 6 runners wide as they're rounding the far turn. He's just losing a ton of ground as he's passing all of these horses. And to his credit, he's going to be moving faster than all of these horses that are saving more ground on the inside. He's going to eventually finish second in this race, closing pretty well after the eventual winner, Coach Villa. Now, it should be noted that the winner of this race, Coach Villa, he saved every inch of ground, hugging the rail the entire way, whereas Jerome Avenue was on the outside. If you look at the Trackist figures for this race, which account for ground loss, Jerome Avenue traveled 55 more feet than the winner of this race, which is just pretty remarkable in a dirt sprint that's only going around one turn. You just don't see figures that are really higher than that. So obviously, Jerome Avenue ran a lot better than his final finishing position would indicate. And I think he's a horse you definitely want to look for next time at a similar level. Probably like to see him going a little bit farther, but he actually ran fine going the 6 furlong distance. Just needs to get away from the gate cleanly next time. Let's move on to a race later in that Aqueduct card. It's the 6th race for New York breds, a maiden special weight event going 6.5 furlongs. This race was noteworthy for the fact that it's won by a first-time starter that was pretty impressive. But I want to look at one of the horses with experience that finished a bit farther back in the pack. That's the number 3, Scuttlebuzz, and we'll look at him coming out of the gate, and it's a pretty similar situation to what we saw from Jerome Avenue. Again, he's the number 3 horse here, and he just gets steadied back. You know, unlike Jerome Avenue, who kind of did it to himself a little bit, Scuttlebuzz, if you watch the head-on of this race, was just completely taken out by the winner, the last ace. That horse really comes over on him, causes Scuttlebuzz to be sandwiched between horses coming out of the starting gate, and just puts him towards the back of the pack. Now, it's the same rider on board, actually, Eric Consell, who, again, is going to try to send this horse up into position on the backstretch. The pace of this race does slow down a little bit as they move into the far turn, so that gives him an opportunity to move up on the outside of horses. But again, it's a situation where he's going to be losing all of this ground, going 4 wide around the far turn. He's just never going to get any position out in no man's land there. It's really difficult for especially a lightly raced horse to make this kind of premature move into the race. And the eventual winner of this race, again, a situation where that horse, the number 4, the last ace, is hugging the rail the entire way, saving all that ground. In addition to that, he's setting some pretty moderate to slow fractions in this race, whereas Scuttlebuzz was having to close into those fractions. And again here, some other horses are gravitating towards the inside. He's just stuck out in the middle of the racetrack. Scuttlebuzz is going to fade pretty badly at the end of this race and finish a very distant 4th. But the performance as a whole was a lot better than that final finishing position would indicate. And he's a horse that I think you want to look for moving forward, because I'm not so sure that dirt is ultimately going to be the right surface for him. He's a son of the factor. The dam side is really a lot more turf pedigree. And I was listening to Maggie Wolfendale, the paddock analyst at NYRA, who was saying in the paddock prior to this race, he really just looks like more of a turf horse. So I would look for this horse when they eventually get on turf at Aqueduct, probably in the month of April, making a surface switch, because I think this horse does have ability. He showed it when he closed for 3rd in his debut, just didn't get to show given the trip this day, but I think we'll see a much better performance from him next time out, regardless of what surface that he runs over. Finally, let's move down to Florida and talk about a race from Gulfstream Park. On their Sunday card, it was the 6th race, a maiden special weight event for the 3-year-old fillies going 7 furlongs. And I'm going to focus on the winner of this race. It's the number 1, 4 Graces, and we'll break them from the gate. Unlike in the 2 replays we just watched, this filly actually breaks very professionally from the gate. for a first-time starter. She breaks alertly there, is sent out towards the front end, and she's going to establish the lead here. Just to give some background on this filly, she's a horse that I think people were following even before, regardless of how she ran, given her pedigree, because she's by Majestic Perfection, who's been a nice sire of precocious runners. But the dam side, it's really important to note, she's a half-sister to McCracken, who was the Kentucky Jockey Club winner. He won the Sam F. Davis. He was one of the top contenders on the Derby Trail a number of years ago. So this filly really is bred to be a top runner. As they move down the backstretch here, you can see she's established the lead, having to be used from the inside, but there were 3 horses to the outside that are really on a hard chase against her, and they're all going to take shots at her as they round the far turn. If you look at the time formulas pace figures of this race, it's actually a red color-coded situation, indicating that she was setting some pretty fast fractions. And you're going to see these speeds after they challenge her one by one. She's going to turn each of them away. They're going to drop back. And the horse that proves to be the biggest challenge is the one that's getting the perfect trip in behind those speeds, that number 3 horse. She's going to range up outside, make what looks like a winning move. But to the credit of Four Graces, this first-time starter, she's going to hold this closer at bay. Even though that runner is getting a perfect trip, Four Graces is going to continue to kick away from her as they come down the stretch of this race, considering that she broke from the rail, considering that she was a first-time starter, the fact that they were going 7 furlongs, and especially the fact that she's going out for Ian Wilkes, who is not a trainer who is really known for having first-time starters prepared to win their debuts. Everything about this race is really encouraging. I think this is a filly that's likely to do better in subsequent starts. She got a 103 time formula speed figure for this win. I think she got a buyer that was somewhere in that same range, I think the low 80s. So she's definitely a horse that I would want to follow moving forward out of this race. She could eventually make her way into stakes company if she takes another step forward, because this was a very encouraging debut. So I look forward to seeing how her career progresses. Those are all the replays for this week. Hopefully we can make a score with one of these horses when they run back in the future. Thanks. I'll be back again next week to analyze 3 more horses to watch.